The day 6. Bishops broke from Rome. Late on the night of June 29, 2026, Pope Leo XIV sat alone in his private chapel. On the desk beside him lay a letter he had written with his own hand, a final plea to men he knew would not listen. Within 48 hours, a ceremony in a quiet Swiss valley would trigger the most serious rupture inside the Catholic Church in nearly 40 years. 6 bishops would walk away excommunicated, and the Pope, watching from Rome, could do nothing to stop it. A new pope, an old wound. Robert Francis Prevost had been elected Pope Leo XIV on May 8, 2025, just weeks after the death of Pope Francis. An Augustinian friar who had spent years as a missionary bishop in Peru, Leo was seen as a careful reformer, someone who understood institutions from the inside and believed the Church could evolve without losing itself. 13 months into his papacy, that belief was about to be tested by a conflict older than his pontificate, the unresolved status of the Society of St. Pius X, known as the SSPX. The announcement. On February 2, 2026, the SSPX issued a statement that landed in Rome like a warning shot. Citing what they called a state of grave necessity, the Society announced it would consecrate 4 new bishops on July 1st, without seeking and without waiting for papal approval. The reasoning was practical as much as theological. The SSPX's 2 active bishops, Alfonso de Galarreta and Bernard Fillet, were aging. 2 others were gone. Bernard Tissier de Malaret had died in 2024, and Richard Williamson, expelled from the Society years earlier, died in 2025. Without new bishops to ordain priests, the movement, roughly 700 clergy and 600,000 faithful worldwide, would eventually run out of ministers. So the SSPX leadership made a choice: act now, unilaterally, or watch the organization fade. Rome tries to talk. The Vatican did not stay silent. Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez, prefect of the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, met with SSPX Superior General Father David Pagliarani on February 12th. He brought a real offer: structured theological dialogue, a defined path toward reconciling decades of disagreement over the Second Vatican Council, religious liberty, and interfaith relations, with the possibility of formal canonical recognition at the end of it. There was one condition: postpone the consecrations. 6 days later, the answer came back. No. Pagliarani argued that since the Church itself was, in the SSPX's view, in doctrinal error, no dialogue with it could resolve anything. The only common ground left, he wrote, was charity, not agreement. From that point, the Vatican tried nearly everything: back-channel diplomacy, former allies of the Society, and on May 13th, a direct formal warning from Cardinal Fernandez that the consecrations would be schismatic and would trigger automatic excommunication under canon law. Nothing changed the outcome. The open letter. 3 days before Pope Leo convened an extraordinary consistory of cardinals, the SSPX released an open letter to the Pope and the entire College of Cardinals. Attached was a 154-point profession of faith, 28 pages rejecting ecumenism, interreligious dialogue, and much of the theological direction the Church had taken since Vatican II. It wasn't an opening for negotiation. It was a declaration, timed deliberately to land just before the cardinals gathered in Rome. During that consistory, on June 26th and 27th, Cardinal Gerhard Müller, former head of the Doctrine Office, proposed something telling: a special commission not to punish the SSPX, but to help ordinary clergy and laypeople inside the movement return to full communion, separate from a leadership that no longer seemed interested in reconciliation. A letter from a father. On June 29th, the feast of Saints Peter and Paul, Pope Leo wrote directly to Father Pagliarani in his own hand. Published the next morning, the letter avoided legal or bureaucratic language entirely. It read like a father writing to children about to make an irreversible mistake. Leo praised the SSPX's devotion to liturgical tradition and priestly formation. He acknowledged their sincerity, and then he asked plainly for them to stop, warning that the schismatic act they were preparing would cut ordinary believers off from valid access to the sacraments. He closed with a line that carried the full weight of the papacy. To tear the seamless garment of Christ is a sin of extreme gravity. Pagliarani's reply came that same afternoon, respectful, even sorrowful in tone, but unmoved. The consecrations would proceed. Écon, July 1st. The ceremony took place at the SSPX's seminary in Écon, a small village in the Swiss canton of Valais, the same site where Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre had triggered the original 1988 schism by consecrating 4 bishops without Rome's permission. The vestments used that day were the same ones from 1988. So was the bishop's throne. An estimated 17,000 people arrived from nearly 70 countries. Organizers had built a live stream operation broadcasting in 6 languages, sold commemorative wine, and printed souvenir caps for the crowd. At the moment, in the Latin Rite where the papal mandate would normally be read aloud, a priest instead read a statement rejecting the authority of church leadership since Vatican II. Bishop de Galarreta then consecrated 4 priests, Pascal Schreiber, Michael Goldade, Michel Pouzin-Derry, and Marc Hanapier, as bishops without Rome's consent. A sudden storm broke over the meadow partway through the rite. The ceremony continued anyway. Under Canon 1382, the excommunications were automatic. No decree, no trial, no delay. 6 men, the 2 consecrating bishops and the 4 newly ordained, were excommunicated the instant the rite was completed. Afterward, the group processed to Lefebvre's tomb in the seminary crypt and sang the Salve Regina. What comes next? The SSPX called the day a very great grace. In Rome, the mood was closer to exhaustion than shock. The Vatican had watched this coming for 5 months and had exhausted every diplomatic option available to it. The practical stakes are real. Since 2015 and 2017, Popes Francis and Benedict had extended limited faculties allowing SSPX priests to hear confessions and witness marriages. A fragile, semi-recognized status. If Rome now formally declares schism, those faculties are likely to be revoked, leaving hundreds of thousands of SSPX faithful with uncertain sacramental standing, through no direct action of their own. For Pope Leo, the episode closes a chapter that outlived 2 of his predecessors. But the deeper question of what the Church owes to ordinary believers caught inside a leadership's decision to break away is only beginning.